Hello, in this video we will discuss about the nerve impulse and their mechanism, as well as we will understand about the neurotransmitter. What is that? And let's begin to understand. First of all, I want to explain the nerve impulse and conduction. So we will discuss first is the nerve impulse is a waves of electrochemical changes in the cell membrane, in the axon of the nerve, in the axon of the neuron, so which travels along the length of the neuron, involving chemical reaction and movement of ions across the cell membrane. So that is why it is known as the nerve impulse. And it is related to the electrical potential. What is the mean? Electrical potential, it is a measure of the capacity to do electric work in the neuron, which that is known as the electric potential. It means the ability to do work is the capacity. And the membrane potential, what is that? The electrical potential that exists across the cell membrane is known as the membrane potential. It means the membrane is able to exchange the ion. So that means the against the osmotic gradient we will discuss also. On the other hand, the resting membrane potential, what is that? A non-conducting neuron at rest is known as the resting membrane potential. So let's unwind the all things here. We will understand. I hope you make sense about the electrical potential, membrane potential, and resting membrane potential. So let's draw a diagram to understand the neuron first. So the neuron is basically the part of central nervous system as well as the peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system made up of brain and spinal cord, while the peripheral nervous system is contain somatic nerves. So here is the basic structure of the neuron, which contains soma, dendrites, tree-like structure, node of Ranvier, and the myelination of the Schwann cell, and axon, which that is able to travel the nerve impulse and nerve ending. So in this way, here is the axon, which that is after the depolarization, in the blue color is showing in the figure, which that is traveled along the axon. And again, repolarization, depolarization, repolarization, polarization will travel and throughout the axon. So which that is known as the nerve impulse, which that is lead to a sensation of something toward the brain or away from the brain for give the response. So here is the type of neuron we will discuss: the neuroglial cell, motor neuron, interneuron, and sensory neuron. Neuroglial cell is support and nourishment to the nervous system, while the motor neuron used for the muscle contraction, and interneuron is the present in the central nervous system for integration. And the sensation of pain and touch is the part, and it is the sensory neuron. So in this way, here is the diagram, which that is basically I am showing in the figure. This is the motor neuron. So first of all, I want to say that is, for example, here is the interneuron. This is the part of the brain. It is unmyelinated and short as compared to the motor neuron and sensory neuron, because the sensory neuron is long, too much long. So that is why. So here is the unmyelinated, and that is the neurotransmitter receptor are present for the binding of the dopamine, adrenaline, noradrenaline, as well as the GABA or glutamate. So in this way, here is the synapse is occurring here for sensation of pain or sensation of touch, pressure, nociceptors, or other proprioceptor. So in this way, the light touch or hard touch, which that is can sense from the hand in the skin. So skin contain a mechanoreceptor. So in this way, the stimulus can be chemoreceptor, mechanoreceptor, photoreceptor, or nociceptors. So the chemoreceptor used for the chemical, mechano is the touch, pressure, and photoreceptor light, and nociceptor is the pain receptor, in the skin. After the detection from the dendrites are present here, which that is a nerve ending, and it is the sensation of pain or touch. For example, we travel through our axon by a depolarization and repolarization again, and it is basically the Schwann cell are present wrapping around the axon, which increase the nerve impulse. It's due to the jumping is known as the saltatory conduction. It is known as the saltatory conduction. It is more rapid and speed is more velocity as compared to the unmyelinated. So the skin, it is the afferent neuron because it is toward the brain. So that is mean it is move toward the brain. It is mean that means the afferent neuron. While here is the unmyelinated, it is present in the central nervous system, brain or spinal cord, which that is not long. So in this way, after the integration, the motor neuron will transmit the signal to the muscle by a neuromuscular junction to contract the muscle. That is the response, and it is due to the efferent neuron. Motor neuron is also known as the efferent neuron. So in this way, the synaptic cleft are present and neuromuscular junction. So let's begin to understand the impulse creation and their depolarization. So in this way, here is the extracellular matrix and here is the intracellular matrix. Extracellular matrix contain ions as well as protein, extracellular protein. For example, chloride ion is the negative anionic channel, anionic cation, anionic chloride, which that is 115 millimole per liter, while the calcium is 2.5 millimole per liter, and potassium is the 4 millimole per liter, and sodium is the 156 millimole per liter. But inside the potassium is more, 156, and the sodium is 10. It means the less as compared to the outside extracellular matrix. So the protein is the negative charge is contained 55 millimole per liter. So the calcium is 0.5, and it means the important cation are present inside of the intracellular matrix, which that is the has more as compared to the outside, but the sodium is more outside. It means the major cation are present extracellular is sodium, while the potassium is also inside, and protein is the anion. So that is why it creates the negative charge inside. So in this way, when action potential will begin, so the 3 sodium will be outflux and the 2 potassium will influx. It creates the depolarization to create the positive charge inside while the negative charge outside. So in this way, the depolarization will be occur, and in this way again repolarization and depolarization will create the nerve impulse. So here is a graph. I am showing the graph, which that is we can understand as well. During the resting membrane potential, the minus negative millivolt. So when increase the threshold from the minus 50 millivolt to depolarization will begin to complete depolarization is the positive 50 millivolt, and again repolarization will be occur. In this way, the hyperpolarization will again the recovery phase, and in this way the next channel will be open. So the sodium potassium gated channel open. So this is the gate like structure which can be open and close. So in this way, the influx of the sodium will be increased to increase the hyperpolarization, which that is again convert into the resting membrane potential minus 70 millivolt. It can be minus negative is known as the hyperpolarization. So let's begin to understand. Here is the synapse. Synapse means the conduction through a synapse. It is the neuron gap, which that is created by a neurotransmitter to another nerve impulse for another neuron. So here is a synaptic knob are present, and here the synaptic vesicle is known as the neurotransmitter. So when calcium move inside, influx of the calcium. This influx of the calcium is the basically the presynaptic neuron are present. In this way, the mitochondria is also present. We provide the ATP for synthesis of acetylcholine neurotransmitter. So the important neurotransmitter can be acetylcholine, for example. So the calcium influx to inhibit the efflux of the potassium through a potassium gated voltage gated channel. So that means the also calcium will increase to positive charge inside through a calcium move inside. That is why the calcium is more outside, so it means the positive charge creation to exocytosis of acetylcholine neurotransmitter. After the acetylcholine will bind with the acetylcholine neurotransmitter receptor to create an action potential to another neuron. So it is the end of the dendrites. It is the post-synaptic neuron. In this way, the sodium-potassium exchange will be occur through a sodium-potassium exchange to increase the nerve impulse to another neuron, which that is lead to move into the brain, into the central nervous system for electrical conduction. So in this way, the signal can be detected in this manner. So I hope you make sense about the synapse as well as on the other hand the nerve impulse. So let's begin to understand what is the neurotransmitter and what is the type of neurotransmitter. So the neurotransmitter is basically a different, for example, GABA, glutamate, norepinephrine, epinephrine, dopamine, as well as the uh, acetylcholine. So in this way, here is a neurotransmitter. We can classify through a central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system contain brains and brainstem, and peripheral nervous system contain autonomic nervous system and somatic nervous system. Somatic is the body, sensory and motor neurons for muscle contraction. It is voluntary. And here is the involuntary is the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic means the fight and flight response, while the parasympathetic means the rest and digest. So the sympathetic nervous system activates through neurotransmitters known as adrenaline, epinephrine, or noradrenaline or norepinephrine, and the dopamine and oxytocin is released through a parasympathetic nervous system. So here I am drawing, here I draw the uh, plasma membrane of the neuron, which that is bind the adrenaline from a beta receptor or alpha receptor for inhibitory or excitatory for muscle contraction or relaxation. On the basis of beta receptor and alpha receptor will different target to create contraction or relaxation of the muscle. So in this way, here is the another channel. In this receptor are present, which that is the acetylcholine receptor bind with the muscarinic receptor. This muscarinic receptor is used for the excitatory in or inhibitory. For example, heart rate or gastrointestinal tract, which that is exchange, which that is ability to contract of the gastrointestinal tract or heart rate will be increased through a muscarinic receptor. On the other hand, it is also involved in the vomiting due to the sympathetic nervous system. So in this way here is the oxytocin or another dopamine is the parasympathetic, but it is the sympathetic. And in this way the nociceptor is also present, which that is bound to a acetylcholine receptor. So all this about the neurotransmitter. So I hope you make sense about